Hello, and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast, where we help you navigate your wellness journey each and every week. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck. We're both licensed therapists and interested in all things wellness. This week on Wishing You Well, we have a special guest. We are joined by Michelle Schwartz, who you may know as Fitstagram Michelle. Michelle is a prenatal and postpartum fitness specialist and certified personal trainer. She's a coach at F45 and a mom of one with one on the way. So close. In addition, she has a fitness app with over 15,000 reviews where she helps women through pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond.
We are so excited to have Michelle here with us today. And of course, we're going to ask her about our self-care menu before we get into today's episode. Living full and well life is to put together authentic.
We feel it.
Take care of ourselves.
All right. Well, before we get into our, the bulk of our episode, we want to check in about self-care. We always check in about self-care in the beginning of our episodes. And we do that in a form of a menu. So we want to ask you first, Michelle, what is on your self-care menu today? And you can pick an appetizer, you can pick a main course, a dessert, or a 3-course meal. And that all depends on what you need. So like an appetizer is something bite-sized, something small. A main course might be something more substantial, like something you do weekly, daily. Dessert is, of course, like a treat. And a 3-course meal is like when you need something, a lot of something. Like you need to go on a vacation right now.
Yeah. I love that. I think today I am fine with an appetizer. I think about a week ago, I would have said, I need a 3-course meal. I need a break from some parts of life. But yeah, today I'm feeling pretty good. I just need, like a little nap here and there. And then that's all. Yeah.
A little nap. You can have multiple.
Well, during pregnancy, first trimester was really tough. So I would have multiple for sure. Now that I'm later in the 3rd trimester, I actually have my energy, which is surprising, getting so close to meeting our baby girl. But I have this weird thing about times. Like I have to set my alarms with a 3 or a 7 at the end. Don't ask me why. It's been my whole life. So 23 minutes is like my ideal nap time where I feel refreshed and not too tired when I wake up.
That's great.
That's amazing. How did you get from I need a 3-course meal to like, no, I'm good with an appetizer? Like, did you do anything different or did just like energy shift?
I would say both. I definitely was very intentional. So it was like a day or two that I was feeling just really low in energy, in mood, in just every part of my life. And I knew that I needed, to rest. And that came in the form of, sleeping in, taking a nap throughout the day, but also just like shutting down. So I realized that I was on social media a lot. I was really stressed about my full-time job. And I just like took a break from all of that and took time for outdoor walks and the fresh air and the sunshine, just like really helped my soul and my energy. And again, just shutting down from those things that were draining me, that I realized that I was just pulling too much weight at the same time. And I needed a full refresh and restart. And since then, I'm telling you, it was like a day or two where I did that. And I have felt like on top of the world since then. So I can't stress how important it is to actually take self-care and rest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great. You were just so intentional about it. You were so aware of what you needed. And now you're so aware of what you need. You know that you don't need the same thing. You can switch it up, and that's what works. And that's why we do this. I mean, we check in all the time because our self-care is always shifting, because we're always shifting. We're always changing, and everything around us is changing. So we have to adjust.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I think identifying with yourself and learning that about yourself is something that will always be part of your growth as you get older, is recognizing what you really need and being able to adjust as time goes on, as circumstances change. And I've definitely learned that during pregnancy is I have to be very aware use my time wisely, but also rest and understand what I actually need.
I love that. I can already tell we're going to learn so much from you today. So, okay. So we've got your appetizer is a 23-minute nap, which is awesome. I love it. Catherine, what about you? What's on your menu today or this week?
So similar to yours, Michelle. Mine's going off of where I am right now in my pregnancy. I'm like really nesting right now. I'm like cleaning out things, throwing away things, making room for things. So baby's got space. And I'm so excited because I've been wanting to clean out all my cabinets and reorganize them and get rid of things I don't need in there. And I did it on Monday. And I just feel so good having done that. And there's still like all these other little areas of where I live that I want to hit, but like just kind of taking it space by space. And Amy knows this, but in previous episodes, I've been like, I want to be the person that wipes down my countertops at night. And I want to be the person that like puts my plugs away. And like, I'm doing those things and it's totally on this nesting game. And I'm just riding it out because it's just making me into this person that I want to be. So I'm going to continue doing that because I've never found so much joy in organizing.
Yeah.
It totally frees in your brain, doesn't it? Like you're cleaning out your cabinets, but really it's your brain is now adjusting and you have more space.
Yeah.
For sure. I was just going to say that, like the idea of outer order, inner calm, like it's so like meaningful and it's like also so tangible to like get rid of the stuff in the cabinets. Like it's so satisfying. And then coupled with also doing it for this like really exciting reason that your baby's going to be here soon.
Yeah, exactly. So gonna keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how about you, Amy? What's on your menu?
Well, as I've been sharing, I had been like going through a little bit of like a funk and I'm feeling much better and like energy wise feeling better. But while going through that funk, it kind of like spiked up all of my like gut and like nutritional things that I had been working on and working through. And so I literally just right before this got off a meeting with my dietitian. And that was like so helpful to kind of like be reminded of the things that I need to do in order to help my body feel better. And essentially like the take home message was, as always, like, make sure you listen to your body and give your body what it's telling you it needs, not what you think it needs, like kind of all of that. So those reminders were really, really helpful because I think I was like putting a lot, like getting really frustrated and putting a lot of pressure on myself to like feel good or figure it out and all of that stuff. And so it was just like such a good reminder that like our body really knows way more than we do. And so to listen to my body. So that's, I guess, a main course, but feels like kind of also like a 3-course meal in terms of a mindset shift. So that's
it's like a total override reset.
I don't know why that one's so hard for me to like integrate.
Why? Giant change? That's hard for you?
Why can't I just do it already? But yes. So I'm working on that this week. But okay. Well, I'm glad we've checked in. Like Catherine said, like we love checking in at the top of our episode so we can figure out if we're getting our needs met and getting everything that we need. And we hope that you, our listeners, are also checking in with yourself right now or throughout the week, because like Michelle was saying, like our needs like adapt and change all the time. And so it's really helpful to stay in touch with like what's going on with us so that we can make sure that we're taking good care of ourselves. So with all that being said, we're ready to get into the episode. We're ready to kind of dig in with Michelle.
Michelle, if you wouldn't mind just giving our listeners a bit of background about you.
Sure. Yes. Well, my name's Michelle. I have been into health and fitness pretty much my entire life. I come from a family full of nurses. There are 4 nurses in my family, but I am someone who hates blood. So that was not my avenue to go into. I'm very artistic and I have a business mindset as well for marketing, but I have just fallen in love with health and fitness and realized that is a course that I've always wanted to take. So I've pursued Instagram as my channel of choice, I guess you could say. I've become a personal trainer. I work at F45 coaching there. And then I also have a prenatal and postpartum fitness app where I can just share my knowledge and my workouts with anyone in that phase or even into motherhood or before that as well. So it has just been something that has been a huge blessing in my life. And I just want to share everything that I can with as many people as I can.
I love that, like, you're channeling all these different sides of yourself in what you're doing. You're channeling your creative side. You're channeling your passion for health and fitness. And then in becoming a mother, we're like, well, hold on. There's this whole other area of health and fitness that I can really tap into. And you're leaning into all of those things.
Oh, totally. It has been such a fun journey. I'm telling you, it's like one time when I think that I'm stuck in some way, and then another opportunity comes about where I'm like, this is an educational miss that isn't in the market right now, or this is something that I'm just very passionate about. And it's just fun to see myself grow as I've progressed from, like a high school student who's just like a soccer player trying to pursue that in college and beyond. And then now into what I do now has just been so neat to see for myself, but also just to see how I can, make an impact on other people's lives and realizing that that is like a true call for me. It's not just an inward growth, but being able to share that with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had said to you, Michelle, before we started recording that I've been following Michelle for years now. I mean, I don't even know how long it's been. And I think even from like an outsider view, it's been really cool to also see your progression as you've gone through different stages of your own life. And so it's really cool to have you here as an expecting mother and also someone that's like created such a great space in both the wellness space, but also in the prenatal space, which is so, so needed.
That's awesome. I know it has been quite a journey to get here, but yes, I'm here and I'm ready.
Well, I mean, you kind of alluded to this a little bit as you kind of talked about your background and even the way that you thought about self-care. But as you have, as Catherine said, like tapped into these different elements of and parts of yourself, it sounds like you have kind of a busy life, a very full life. What does wellness even mean for you right now? Like, how do you conceptualize that? Like, what is a well life for you?
Yeah. I love that question because I feel like it means something different to everyone. And even in the stages of your life, it's going to change. But for me right now, it's all about balancing a healthy mind, body, and soul. So whether that be pursuing my fitness journey or eating well or, going to church, for me, I feel like all of those are just really interconnected, and being able to balance them while still being able to grow in each area is just really important. So for like a well life is just all encompassing in all of those avenues, and just being able to appreciate, the life that I have and the blessings that I have. There's been there was an accident with my husband's family actually in the past week that kind of like shook some of us. I didn't know him. It was a cousin of the family, but he was recently in an accident where he is now a paraplegic. Mm-hmm. And just being able to realize that like I have that opportunity to move my arms and legs and like take advantage of that. Like that's such a gift. And I think that living a well life is taking advantage of the blessings that you have and recognizing those different parts too.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And as you were talking, I've been, we've had a number of guests on our show. And so every time we come on, I'm kind of thinking about, okay, like living a well life looks different for everyone. And there are these overlaps. And we hear kind of gratitude, appreciation as one big element that keeps coming up. And another thing that you mentioned before is like being self-aware and kind of, adapting as well, kind of not being really rigid in wellness as well. And so it's so inspiring, I think, to hear, and also really grounding to hear that across, this is our 49th episode, across all of these episodes, that there are some like really common threads and themes that exist in the wellness space. I think for wellness is so overwhelming. That's why we have this podcast. But it's like, again, so grounding to know that there are these like common core principles that do exist and help people live well and feel well.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because I feel like media will tell you, or different influencers or doctors will be like, this is how you get healthy, And I think that it just varies so much, and that it's not like a one size fits all environment at all. I mean, my life has changed dramatically and my fitness journey has changed dramatically over the years. And so has my well-being, and just being able to, go with the flow and still realize what you need in the time that you have and what you can do with that time is just a perfect way to, share it all and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And you just said this, that your fitness journey's changed over the years. And I know before you even mentioned you were a soccer player in high school and playing in college. And then, you're incorporating health and wellness now in your life in a different way. Can you describe what your fitness journey has been like?
Yeah, sure. So I love my fitness journey because it is just like a bunch of different steps, I feel like. So I had a very active childhood. I'm one of 5 girls. So not being a family of boys, but very into sports with all of my sisters and our friends. I had just taken to soccer really early and fell in love with it. I was on multiple teams, multiple travel teams, and always wanted to play in college. Finally got to that stage and was able to play at Lynchburg College in Virginia, and absolutely had a blast doing it. And once I left college, I realized that my one avenue for fitness was no longer there. And I had joined, just some rec leagues after school and loved it. Being in Stamford, Connecticut, there were lots of opportunities for me to get involved on soccer teams there, but it didn't feel the same. It wasn't something that I was doing every day, and not something that I felt extremely competitive with anymore. And it just kind of like lost its sparkle to me. It was just, different. It's like my end goal, which I had accomplished playing in college, is gone. So what is my goal now? And I actually developed an eating disorder in college. I'd say probably the end of high school and early college, and was able to overcome it. But that was probably one of the factors that influenced my journey as well. So after school, I was gaining weight and worried about how I was looking. And, my journey with soccer was over, and I was just looking for something else to direct my ability to. And so after finding different online fitness opportunities, I joined Sweat, which was Kayla Itzines, I don't even know how to pronounce her name, program. And that was actually one of the awesome factors of me overcoming my eating disorder journey, is I found that I didn't have to, succumb to bulimia and some other ways of eating just because I wanted to look a certain way. Like working out made me feel good. And that's what I was really looking for the whole time. So I joined that. And then probably a year or two in, I switched to Tone It Up, just fell in love with the community of girls. They're still some of my very best friends, which is so cool. I was in one of the girls' weddings recently, and that was just a big blessing. But through that, a couple of years of being on a Tone It Up fitness plan, I realized that I was so passionate about fitness in general. And I wanted to educate other women and just find different ways to connect and use my fitness for good. And I became a certified personal trainer and started coaching at F45 in Stamford. Oh my goodness, I want to say like 6 years ago, pretty much a year after they opened, and had, fallen in love with a group fitness setting, being able to use those skills, connect with other people, find community was just huge. And then I got pregnant and realized there was such a need for a prenatal, fitness workout, either journey, program, in some way, education. And so I got my prenatal and postpartum fitness certification so that I could, influence and work out in a safe manner for myself during pregnancy and postpartum, but also just be able to teach other people. Because especially when I was at F45, like there were a number of women and still are that are pregnant and just have questions about like, what can I do? What can't I do? What's safe? What's not safe during pregnancy? What's good for my baby? What's good for me? And so that certification has been just like the fire of my life lately. Obviously, since I'm pregnant the second time, I'm using all of that knowledge and just being able to share it at F45, but also on my app as well. So it has been quite a journey from soccer to now, but it is transformed. But I think the common thread in it is just me appreciating my body and appreciating, the gifts that I've been given and hoping that I can share them with others as well.
Are you an empty nester, or do you know one or two? This time in life is quite the shock to the system. Moms have just turned off a part of themselves that's been on for at least 2 decades, if not more. And many mothers at this point don't really know what's next for themselves. It makes a lot of sense when a huge focus of yours has all of a sudden disappeared, or at least looks a lot different than it had before. Because this can be such an off time, we've created a group for moms in just this position. Welcome to Embrace the Empty. I'm Christine Gigliotti, and I will be facilitating this group over Zoom on Wednesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. starting September 13th. Get all the details and sign up at the link in our show notes.
Oh, it's really taken you. You had a whole stretch of exposure to fitness, exposure to health and wellness, and now you're here. Now you're here at this prenatal, postnatal spot in that journey, and who knows where you'll be headed next.
Yes, I know. I keep thinking about that. I like try predicting my life, and I'm like, there's no even shot predicting it because things are going to come up and things are going to change. But I know that I'll figure it out when it comes.
So one thing that you were talking about, and this is something that I can't relate to, that maybe, Catherine and Michelle, you both can speak to a little bit more, is, with being, both of you are really active people. How was your fitness journey impacted by your pregnancies? Like, what kinds of things did you learn about your body? I'm so interested in that. And I know our listeners, like, also whether they are expecting or have that as a life plan, like, could really benefit from hearing that too.
Yeah, I love that question. So I feel as if a lot of women, including myself before I got certified, just didn't know what was safe. I just didn't know what I could do. A lot of doctors will tell you, if you'd been doing it before pregnancy, you're probably fine to continue doing it when you get pregnant, and you'll just need to, scale back, make some modifications and go from there. And I was like, that is not an adequate answer. Like that is answering nothing of any of my questions that I have. And so when I became pregnant, I realized that I wanted to stay fit, not only for myself. Like I didn't want to, like my mindset wasn't, oh, I want to be skinny or I only want to gain a certain amount of weight during pregnancy. It had nothing to do with that. It was more, I wanted to be healthy for myself, but also for my baby. And there's so much statistics out there that say, an active mom is actually producing a healthier baby. And that was like truly my goal during it. And so I was just like really hyper aware of how I was working out, how I was feeling, and how that activity would impact me and my baby. And so you do have to modify some things as your pregnancy progresses just to make it safe. Like some core exercises will need to be scaled back and modified. But there also there's a lot of information out there that, I don't know how to say this. So my doctor went to school a long time ago. She's probably 70, maybe a little bit older than that. And I admire her so much, but some of the information she was giving me was out of date. And so I really wanted to look into that and decide what the most updated information and research said would be safe for pregnancy and activity. And one of the common things you hear is you need to keep your heart rate at 140 beats per minute maximum during pregnancy. And that's actually was proven false in 1991. And the new recommendation is, you go from, it's a scale. So you talk about the rate of perceived exertion. So how hard you think you're working in any given moment. So 1 on that scale is essentially like a really light walk. And a 10 is I am sprinting like in a competition. And 140 beats per minute can change between lots of different women. It can change during your pregnancy because of hormones. And there's just no like day to day, even it can change within hours, not even because of exertion, just because of your hormones fluctuating. So looking at your Apple Watch and you're like, oh, I'm 140 beats per minute, but I'm like walking up the stairs. Like that's not a reason to not walk up the stairs. It's more like you want on that rate of perceived exertion from a 1 to a 10, you want to stay between a 6 to an 8 on that level, which is actually for a lot of women, probably more than 140 beats per minute. But as long as you stay between that threshold, it's actually extremely safe and very beneficial for you and your baby to be able to work out in that way. And so realizing that from my first pregnancy, I tried to stay about the 140 beats per minute because that's what my doctor had recommended. And to the second pregnancy where I've gained a whole lot of knowledge, I've gotten certified, I've realized that I could have pushed myself a whole lot harder in that first pregnancy than I did. And it is just, honestly, my energy level has increased. My strength has increased. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. Another recommendation is that you can't lift a certain amount of weight during pregnancy. And it's so false. There's actually stats that show that in your second trimester, you can actually PR. So you can get some of your personal bests with lifting, mostly because your blood volume increases and your heart rate tends to increase a little bit. So you actually have more energy to lift weights and to, push yourself a little bit harder than you might before pregnancy. So I think that was so cool. But there are some ways that you should modify. So I alluded to that before, but like core engagement was probably one of the biggest things that I learned during my certification and now teach other women is that, the way you breathe and the way that you engage your core and your pelvic floor is going to help your core canister. So all of your insides kind of stay in place, but also still be a way to work your abs during pregnancy. And it's actually like really beneficial in so many ways. So that's probably the one thing that I recommend anyone pregnant or trying to get pregnant is to learn proper breathing and core engagement. And my app goes into all of that as well. But that's probably the biggest thing. And what's mind-blowing to me is that I really only pursued that during pregnancy because that's, what I was learning in my certifications, but it's so beneficial for every single person out there, including males. So you talk about coning or bulging in your midline. So in between your abs, there's a thing called a linea alba, which is essentially some tendon that runs between your abs vertically, and that gets stretched during pregnancy. But if you don't properly engage your core, even beyond pregnancy, that linea alba stretches and can cone. So it comes to a point, and that's actually really not beneficial for anyone. It can create a whole lot of issues, including incontinence and just like pain. But core engagement and proper breathing can completely help that and mitigate those issues. So, it's important for males to do it. It's important for people before pregnancy, after pregnancy, during pregnancy. So that's something I learned that I was just pretty impressed by. And it has been probably the one thing that I encourage most that you start with whilst you go through pregnancy.
Wow.
It's amazing that you received the first information that you received was so outdated, and like, I'm not going to knock your doctor for that. It doesn't sound like you are either, that like they have a specialty, and like the fitness aspect of prenatal care is just not part of the specialty. And it certainly wasn't when this person got their degree. And that's why it's so amazing now that we have people out there like you who who do specialize in this, who do really get into the research, who really do get the trainings and the proper certifications to tell people what they really should and should not be doing.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, like, even while coaching at F45, I realized that there's just people want to learn, and without someone that's been properly educated, they will just keep doing what they think is okay, but it probably isn't okay. And that almost could hurt you worse. So really working with a specialist in that area is just so important, because you want to work out if that's, one of your goals, to be active, but you want to do it safely. So recognizing that and, doing something about it is the way to go.
I mean, I loved hearing you share that information. I can hear how you geeked out a little bit, and I love that. That this is something that you're really interested in and passionate about and knowledgeable about. And it seems like in your second pregnancy, having this information was so empowering for you. And learning is something at Revive, we love and value, that knowledge is so empowering. And so I guess I'm thinking about how you were even saying oh, maybe I could have pushed myself harder in my first pregnancy, and that you're really able to utilize and apply all this information now. But I was also thinking, again, I'm not a mother, but I can imagine there's already so much stress and anxiety about your body changing or this new stage of life, and probably a worry around, as you said, if my heart rate getting too high, or is this there's so much stress. And so, as Catherine's saying, having a resource, having information is so empowering for everyone, especially as they are wanting to be the healthiest that they can be and have a healthy baby and all of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It is. I mean, there have been a number of women who have reached out to me, even on social media, who have said, my doctor said this, or is this safe for me? Can you help me in this way? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm doing. I do this for a living. Please ask me these questions, because I want to help you, and I want to empower you as a woman to, take advantage and, use your knowledge for good, and to benefit you and your baby. So, I mean, I have a number of women who follow me from India, and I would say the culture there seems to be very different in terms of pregnancy and postpartum. One girl said that she wasn't allowed to leave her house for 3 months after she gave birth, not even to go on a walk, because it just wasn't part of their culture to do that. They were just supposed to, sit on the couch, nurse their baby, and eat as much as they can to keep their milk supply up. And I was like, that is going to hurt your mental health
Mhm.
Like you need to go outside and get some vitamin D and get some fresh air and just see people, or just get away from your own family, so just being able to, use the knowledge that I have and be able to maybe not advise, but, give some feedback of what I think and I have learned over the years has been just like an awesome opportunity.
Mhm.
So
Are there specific exercises that you'd be willing to share that you typically tell people to avoid?
yeah. So number one, I would say this is probably the most commonly recognized thing to avoid during pregnancy is planking. So planking puts a whole lot of pressure on that linea alba, on your abs, that because gravity is pushing down and then you're already in this, horizontal position. So the gravity is pushing down and then your abs are going to come out the other side. It is one of the easiest ways to create coning. And that's just not safe for pregnancy. So usually what's recommended is once you hit the second trimester is to remove planking from your finish routine. There are ways to do it that are safe though. So an easier, something that's less pressure on that linea alba is coming up into an incline. So your hands are on a bench or on a chair or even on the wall, and then still performing a plank in that way while engaging your core through your breath work. That's a way to make it safe and still work your abs. But just like a general plank, completely horizontal to the ground, is probably one of the first things that you take out. Another thing, first trimester, you want to remove is lying on your belly. So like Superman's, that you're pulling your arms and legs off the ground together and your belly's just on the ground. It's probably one of the things that you're going to take off first, because it can just be impact on your fetus, and you just don't want that to happen. And then most of them are core related exercises. So as you progress during pregnancy, like the third trimester, you'll probably scale back some of the core work that you do, like typical crunches or sit-ups. You're going to change those. So mostly if you're in a tabletop position, so if you're on your hands and your knees, that's one of the quickest ways to modify those moves. So instead of being on your back, you're just in a tabletop position, coming into a bird dog. So your one arm and your opposite leg are extending. That's a good substitute for a crunch. And some other things to avoid are really twisting with a whole lot of intention. So you typically want to keep your hips in line with your torso instead of having them offset. So stretching is fine to, you can feel your limits more in that way. But if you're using weights or cables or anything, twisting like strong movements without moving your hips as well is probably something you want to scale back on. Wow. So I'd say those are probably the biggest ones that you want to avoid. But like I said, the second trimester into your third trimester, you're going to progressively scale back some of that core work, and you'll feel it. Like you'll feel your abs almost come to a point, or like create a little bit of tension, or like a tough stretch. And you just don't want to avoid that. Your belly's already growing and putting stress on those muscles already. So you don't need to add to that. Like there are plenty of other safe ways to work your core without stressing it too much and to the limits.
Yeah. Well, and what's your take on doing things on your back too, as pregnancy progresses?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of people fear the back as one of the first things that you need to take out. It's not like as soon as you hit your second trimester that you're required to not lay on your back anymore. The fear and what you want to avoid is your vena cava is the artery in your back that attaches to your placenta, and with your growing belly, so the weight of gravity pushing on your belly pushes on that vena cava and can kind of cramp it. And it makes you lightheaded, but also prevents blood flow into your placenta. And so that's what could be harmful, but it is studied a lot, and the facts now show that it actually is an extended period of time. So if you're on your back for, say, a minute, it's usually fine. So if you were to perform some exercises like a hip thruster on your back where your back's not coming up at all, or maybe you're lying on your back and you're doing a chest press on the ground or on a bench, and you're 45 seconds to a minute of that activity, it's not going to be harmful for you. You come out of that position afterwards, blood flow returns. And it's not right when you hit your second trimester either. It's based on the growth and the weight that you have put on in your belly, which is really going to impact how significant you need to start to scale that back or not. The one thing I will say about that is like some people just feel comfortable cutting it out right in second trimester, and that's totally fine. For exercises on your back, you can actually come up into a hip thruster. So your butt's off the ground and a little bit of your back is elevated. And at that point, you can perform loads of exercises like that while still in a similar position or working similar muscles. And then other women don't have any symptoms at all, and they continue it throughout their entire pregnancy because all they're doing is like 30-second, usually on their back when they're lying. So it's not like a one size fits all either. It's kind of if you feel an issue, that it's become an issue in some way, or you just feel off, or you just feel lightheaded or dizzy at all, that's when you need to scale it back. But like I still perform some exercises. I'm 36 weeks pregnant and still perform some exercises on my back, and it hasn't been an issue.
Mm-hmm. I have questions maybe for both of you, because this is something that kind of comes up in a lot of my work or our work, and I'm sure, Michelle, like in your work too, and maybe in your personal journey, you've experienced this too, is like, as much as there seems to be like a lack of education around, well, just women's bodies in general, but prenatal health, or just like perinatal health and fitness, there's not a lot of people that are like actually talking about the like real truths around like what it feels like to be pregnant, or how your relationship with your body might change. And I guess I wanted to ask you or you both this, because I'm hoping to normalize people's experiences, because for some reason, probably for a lot that we can think about at a different time, but people don't really talk about this stuff. And then I think it creates a lot of more mental or emotional struggles that might prevent overall health in a pregnancy too. So I was just wondering if you or you both might be able to speak to your experiences with body changes, or just overall feelings being pregnant in general, and how you've maybe worked through them, or how you help others work through that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's like a very negative, I don't know if negative is the way to say it, and positive take that I have on that. I think there are so many hard truths that I've learned during pregnancy. I think some of the worst are that my first trimester during the second pregnancy was easily the hardest 3 months I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was so
it's probably hard. Because we're both having girls.
I swear it is. I know. My doctor was like, it doesn't really mean that you're having a girl, but I am. So I actually took a pregnancy test. I didn't think I was going to get pregnant yet. And I took one because I threw up, and I was like, what is happening? I just feel pregnant. Like I knew what that feeling was like. And I was like, something's not right. Something's off. And took a pregnancy test. And so I ended up throwing up 3 to 4 times a day from week 4 to week 13. And it was horrible. My husband was a saint, I'm telling you, because he had to take care of our other baby, and I was taking naps. I was trying to eat anything that I could to survive, get some energy, but then would throw it up anyway. And it was dreadful. Like I mentally was off, and throwing up so much, it made me recall my eating disorder. I was like, am I in an eating disorder right now? Am I scared of gaining weight? Like, is that what's actually happening? Or am I just really that nauseous? And I swear, like, as soon as I hit the end of my 13 weeks, I was no longer nauseous anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, it was 100% just the pregnancy, because I feel way better. And it was just, but it was so hard emotionally, energy wise, being able to, work still as I could, interacting with friends and my family. I just felt like I had nothing to give. And it's frustrating in the first trimester because most people don't know. It's your close family. A few friends if you choose to tell them, but it's like a secret you're keeping, and you don't want to act differently, but you kind of have to because you feel like crap. And it's just wild because you're like, I feel as if I don't have a belly, so you can't really tell I'm pregnant, but there shouldn't be a reason for it, because you'd think the weight gain would be the reason that I don't have energy, but it's just your hormones going absurd out of whack that cause all of this. And that was just so tough for me. And I'm someone who thrives off of consistency. And I did not thrive off consistently throwing up. I can tell you that much. But my consistency, my workouts had to change because I was just so nauseous. So, knowing that I didn't have that much weight on me, I had gained maybe a pound in that time. And I knew that I could still work out hard, because in the first trimester, you can pretty much do everything that you were doing before. And I couldn't, because I just didn't have that energy. And that was, mentally just really tough for me to get through. And so I would struggle to find 10, 15 minutes a day where I could just go on a walk or, do a light weighted workout in my basement gym, just trying to, create some sort of plan for myself and some sort of consistency of what I had before. And I would pick those times where I wasn't throwing up, that I was like in between and I was feeling okay. And I would just risk it, because I was like, I need that consistency in my life and that timeline. And not knowing when it would end. I know it's usually second trimester, but I was hoping for earlier because it started so early. So I think that was just really, really hard for me.
I don't know about you, Michelle, but I had a very similar experience in my first trimester, not throwing up 3 times a day, although got sick very often, but just nauseous all the time, nonstop. A lot of indigestion and a lot of it was an emotional roller coaster and just 100%. Feeling exhausted. I felt like there was this weird balance that I had to find between, I really, really want to do the things that I know that make me feel good. And fitness is absolutely one of those things for me too. And even just getting outside for a walk, if that's all it is. And I know that this is all I can do right now is sit on the couch and eat mac and cheese, because that's all I can force down my throat right now. And so finding that acceptance part of this is I just kind of have to ride this out and wait for that light at the end of the tunnel. And mine was week 13 too. Yes. Wait for that week. It was a very odd place to be in of I really, really want to, but also I get it. And it was also winter. So it was a dark time. So that just made it worse, but maybe better, because now it's ooh, summertime, second trimester, fun. Yeah, but
yes, I completely agree with that. I think there's a difference between, just letting it ride and being oh, making excuses for yourself as why you can't do something. And then there are some times that is completely valid. And I think getting to a point where you can accept and determine which of the two you're in, which state you're in, is really big and needed. I think a lot of times women just don't do anything during the first trimester because they can't, and it's totally acceptable. I I know that. Like I am there and I'm someone who works out like 6 days a week. I just love it, and I couldn't. But then in the second trimester or third trimester, it's like when you find those little glimpses of energy, take advantage of them too, and I think that's, if you lose that drive or that consistency, or you kind of give up hope at that point, like that's where it becomes detrimental. But if you're like me and it made me even more excited for that second trimester, because I was like, I can do the things that I've been wanting to do this whole time, instead of continuing to make an excuse like, oh, I'm a little bit heavier now, or, oh, I need to modify some of the workouts I had been doing because they're not safe anymore. Whatever it might be, whatever excuse is coming up, I can't find time. But being able to weigh your options, like, is it acceptable because I am actually dying right now? Or like, I can find those glimpses. So I totally get that. And for me, that was the difference between first and second trimester completely, was determining which state I was in and being okay to accept that I could only do so much or nothing at all.
No, I'm definitely in the excitement boat with you. Like I was like, as soon as I got there, I was like, yes, I can actually do a workout. And like, maybe it's 30 minutes now and there are all these modifications, but I don't care because I can move my body. This is great.
Yes. And it feels so good. Like I know I'm telling you, like this, I felt great my first pregnancy. I will say that I felt great the whole time. I mean, besides a little bit of throwing up in the first trimester, but like my body ached, but it wasn't like terrible, and this pregnancy has been even better. I feel like I've been more consistent with my workouts, and it has made an energy difference in my mind and my body completely. Like I am so close to the end right now and I just feel good. And I love that I feel good. And knowing, that postpartum, you have to ease off again and progressively add on. Like I am taking advantage of what I can do now. And it's been a big blessing, but I can't imagine, not working out is like the aches and pains that you would feel from, just the extra weight and not being able to strengthen your body to accommodate for that would be really hard. So that's one of the reasons that I keep going. It's like, I am feeling good, so I'm just going to keep going so I can continue to feel good.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think we talk about this in a different context all the time. Like, of course, like we want to give ourselves grace. And then there is such a thing as like giving ourselves maybe a little too much grace. And like, so kind of always knowing that difference of like, when is it time to rest? And when is it time to maybe like give yourself that nudge or that push to do the thing that we know will make us feel better, even if we might not totally feel like it. There is that aspect of just health, mental health, physical health, so much. But thank you both for sharing that. Like, I think, as you're saying, like that first trimester can probably be so isolating because you are holding this big secret and you feel like shit. And so I know for a lot of the people that I work with will be so validating to hear that they're not alone in that. And it does get better. But yeah, those first several weeks can really, really, really suck.
Yes. Yes. But I do like what you were saying as well, is that, finding those times that you push and you don't push, or you give yourself grace or you don't. There is like a joy in being able to push your body, and it's like a big blessing for you, but also knowing that like there are times where you're just really tired and you still can push. Like I think that's what I learned about pregnancy and postpartum, like especially in the postpartum phases, women have asked me, how do you still work out when you aren't sleeping through the night because the baby's up every 2 hours nursing? And I'm like, well, I know myself, and working out is actually, it takes energy, but it's an energy giver. Like I thrive off of that feeling. I get that serotonin boost. I get the oxytocin, and that's what I'm looking for. I feel stronger afterwards. So even if it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe, like it's still something that takes energy, but gives more energy back. And I think determining that is going to help you choose to give yourself grace in those situations and like push when you can push. So,
right. Well, and I think the idea of rest, right, like is so, it doesn't necessarily always mean sleep. It can mean,
right.
taking a walk or being in the sunshine. Like those things can revitalize us. Yeah, totally. So I know we've covered so much, and of course there's always more to cover, but as we're kind of like rounding out our episode, are there any main, whether it's takeaways, pieces of advice for anyone in the kind of like perinatal space, whether it's kind of thinking about getting pregnant, wanting their body to be ready for pregnancy, in the thick of it in pregnancy, or maybe just had a baby? Like, is there, what are some final takeaways that you want to offer our listeners?
Yeah, I love that. I think that pregnancy is such a blessing and it's a gift. And half the world, I mean, not a single man can say that they have been pregnant. And so it's an opportunity that as a woman that you have, and if you've been given that opportunity, like don't look at it as this scary time that you're extra anxious and you have to worry about everything and that, it's limiting. Like there are so many benefits that come from pregnancy. It's a challenging time for sure. Like I will not lie to you. It's hard, but you grow so much from it. And it is, truly something that you can learn to treat yourself better and to really experience, your true limitations. And I bet you that you will realize that you have a bar so much higher than what you think it is. And that has been one of the biggest blessings of pregnancy, is realizing that, wherever I thought I could go, what was my max level of energy or effort or even like emotional intimacy, it's like, it is so much far beyond that than I ever thought. And so if you have been given that blessing of being able to get pregnant, like look at it that way and see how that changes your mindset as you go day by day, even your first trimester. Like if it's awful, like just know that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and there's a reason for it. And just that you can push your body farther than you can, work with, a specialist to make sure you're doing it safely. But it is truly an awesome time to, learn a lot about yourself. And it's a challenge, but it is an opportunity for growth.
I love that. Catherine, how does that sound to you?
It sounds great.
Inspiring you, I hope.
So much of this has resonated with me. Selfishly, I was just super excited for this episode.
Oh, I'm glad.
And so happy with everything that you've talked about today. Where can our listeners find you? Can you've talked about your app? Can you tell people where they can get that?
Yes, sure. So you can find my app. It's through a website download. So you go to fitstagrammichelle.com and you'll be able to download it. It's a free week trial. So come join me, see what it's all about. And then you can decide if you want to come on a monthly or yearly plan, totally up to you. And then you can find me on Instagram at fitstagram.michelle. And I would love for you to follow along and come see my journey. And postpartum will be coming soon. So any phase of life you're in, I got you covered.
And I can speak as a non-pregnant person, non-mom. I get so much value out of following Michelle. So she's a great follow, as she just said, wherever in your journey you are. So definitely check that out. But Michelle, thank you so much for being here, for giving us so much knowledge and information. And to our listeners too, thank you for following along. If this episode resonated with you or you think might be helpful for a friend or a family member to listen to, share it with them, share it with a friend. We love that. And to our listeners also, thank you for following along, for giving us those ratings and reviews. It gives us so much insight on what we can be doing more of and better. So keep doing that. Make sure you are also subscribed to our YouTube channel, Revive Center for Wellness, where we have weekly drops of our bonus podcast, Reactivity TV, as well as other really awesome wellness content. You can follow Revive on Instagram at ReviveCFW, Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck, me at Amy Alvaro LCSW. Check out our website, revivecfw.com, and send us some emails to wishingyouvell@revivecfw.com. But until next time, we are wishing you well.